This week on ANN, we sit down with the Health Ministry's Director for the Seventh-day Adventist World Church to talk about the coronavirus.
The Adventist Church in Honduras inaugurates its first Chinese community center.
And later, several school and personal ministries leaders from 3 divisions come together in Mexico.
These stories and more coming up.
Thank you so much for joining us this week.
First in the news, with the coronavirus spreading globally, more and more people have questions about how to keep themselves and their families safe.
My co-anchor, Yvette, sat down with the Health Ministry's Director of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church, Dr. Peter Landless, to talk to him about what coronavirus is, to prepare for its spread, and what we can do to minimize our risk.
Good morning, Dr. Landless, and thank you for being with us this morning.
Good morning. It's a privilege to be with you.
Now, we've been hearing so much about COVID-19. Can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on?
Well, you know, it's something which people have heard so much about, and yet we know a lot about it, and we don't know a lot about it. It's actually a virus, which this particular strain was initially called the novel coronavirus, initially affected animals, and it now has jumped to affect human beings. The big problem occurs when that then occurs from human being to human being, because that's how the influenza spreads. It spreads from person to person, and that's what is happening now with coronavirus, with COVID-19 and the illness that it causes. So it is like a flu. It's a virus, so is influenza, and it spreads in a similar way.
Oh. How is it different, though, from a regular flu?
Well, we don't have any immunity to it because we've not been exposed to it before. We don't have a vaccine for it. That is being developed right now, but it's not something we have available. Those are able to help us cope better with infections, because as we're exposed to infections, we develop immunity. So this is completely new, and it's spreading as it did with SARS, which was a similar, also a coronavirus in 2002, similar kind of issue. And the whole aim is to try and contain it, to try and stop its spread, to try and limit it. But it started out in China in December and now has spread to many countries around the world.
Right. I know we are all exposed to it, but who is more at risk right now?
You know, that is an interesting and important question. Normally with influenza, we say the extremes of age, so the very young and the much older. In this instance, it seems to be that those who have the greatest risk are those who are over 60. Having said that, there's just recently a very interesting paper that has been published in the New England Journal of Medicine looking at analysis of cases in China, where they have the most experience with this condition, showing that even in people aged 47, 50, there was a significant problem for them. So we should not say it's safe for anybody and everybody, but there is unquestionably an increased risk to those who are older, and I would put that over 60, and then those who have other disease conditions, high blood pressure, cardiac failure, diabetes, chronic lung diseases, people who are on chemotherapy, people who are immune compromised, people whose immune system is not great. And here's an interesting point. When we talk about high blood pressure, people say, is that really such a big and important condition? Yes, it is a big and important condition. But what has been noted and is being published quite a lot now is that people with COVID-19, they are demonstrating an increase in cardiovascular and heart issues, particularly related to rhythm problems and cardiac damage when people have the virus. So it can then cause what we call atrial fibrillation, which is a rhythm disturbance of the heart, and other issues. So yeah, it's something which we're learning more about. We don't have all the knowledge about it, but we need to treat it with significant respect, and it is important, and yet we should not panic.
Yes, I understand. We have to be careful because even if we're not in those areas of high risk, but we don't want to expose other people who are. Right, and that's why we need to also take care of ourselves. So what are the symptoms if we think we might have the virus?
The symptoms are similar to the flu symptoms, maybe a runny nose, maybe a cough, and the coughing and the runny nose, very difficult to differentiate. Fever, and then another very important component of the COVID-19 viral infestation is that people may develop pneumonia. And the way that occurs is people begin to get short of breath. What has been shown is that the virus may attack the lung cells themselves, causing damage. This can be picked up on X-ray and on CT scanning. But there is a blood test available, and more tests are becoming available around the world. But the shortness of breath, the pneumonia, is the most common cause of disease, of sickness, and also of mortality. If people are feeling unwell and they have a temperature or a fever, then they should seek help.
Okay.
And they should seek guidance and then have the appropriate testing done, which the healthcare providers will be able to direct them where to go.
Okay. What are some things we can do right now to prevent, take care of ourselves?
We can do so much. What we need to remember, and we tend to get very concerned, and we should be concerned, but we should not panic, as I've said before. We need to remember that over 20,000+ people have died in the last year from influenza. So far we're looking at 3,500 people who've died from coronavirus, and that is terrible. But we need to realize that we are dealing with another kind of condition which is potentially fatal. What can we do? Wash hands. Significantly important, very important to wash hands frequently. When we make contact with people, contact with surfaces, elevator buttons, door handles, we need to be washing our hands. And if you're not in a situation to be able to wash your hands, then there is the trusted little alcohol, 60% alcohol minimum, hand cleaner, hand sanitizer. Carry it with you, use it, make sure that we are keeping our hands clean and not spreading it. Then there's the coughing and sneezing etiquette. How do we cough? People often cough into their hands, sneeze into their hands, sneeze into a tissue, and then put the tissue in and then touch something. What we should do is we should sneeze into our sleeve and out of the way of people, and the cough should be the same. Then comes the very difficult thing, is social distancing. It's wonderful to meet people you like and you know, and we hug, we shake hands. We're going to have to socially distance ourselves. Should be 1 meter or 3 feet between us. It's almost that now. And then we also need to do the fist bump, do the elbow bump. Some people are talking about doing the ankle bump, but I'm worried that some people are going to fall on their noses. But anyway, but what we need to do is we need to have the social distancing and be careful. You know, a friendly, warm smile sends a wonderful message of affirmation.
That's true.
So we can do that too.
Yes.
Then when people are sick, stay at home. Make sure that you don't contaminate others, don't spread the virus, and then if one does have a fever, if you're not feeling well, and particularly if there's associated shortness of breath, please see a healthcare professional. And then they will direct for the appropriate testing. There is an awareness among healthcare providers, and there will be an availability of tests as needed and directed. So those are the things that we really need to do. And here's another thing, travel. Should we be traveling everywhere? Well, we have to continue living, we have to continue our work. We have to also continue the travel, whether it's with coronavirus or influenza, or other conditions, does come at a risk. We should only at this time be doing essential travel, and we should be careful of travel to places where there are advisories. What does an advisory mean? It means that organizations like the World Health Organization and the CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, are sending out signals saying, do not travel. What are the countries right now? WHO has advisories of do not travel to China and to Iran. Then CDC has 2 additional advisories that would be to Italy and to South Korea. There's a level 2, which is high risk, be cautious, for Japan. Now, to remember that many trips would take one maybe through Japan. It's not to say that you can't do it. Exercise the caution.
Okay.
So those are things that we need to do. We need to follow those advisories. And then people say, well, what are we doing here? What are we doing there? We should be doing what the local jurisdiction in which we live, what those health authorities are telling us to do, that's what we should do. If they are quarantining schools, that's what should be done.
Right.
If they are closing universities, well, then that's what should be done. But we need to pay attention to what is happening in the local jurisdiction and then function accordingly. Of course, we need to use common sense as well. And that's where the difficulty comes in, because we do not have a huge amount of information.
Right.
But we need to do what is the right thing, and the preventive process, the simple methods which people say, oh, just washing hands. Washing hands is huge. In hospitals, where there is a high percentage, up to 100% of hand washing by healthcare professionals, you see significant decreases in transferring of infections among patients and among staff. So do the simple things, do the common sense things, and as you pointed out, the issue of fever as well, get that checked. If you think you have a fever, take your temperature or go to someone who can do it for you.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Landless, and please be safe as well.
Thank you.
We will follow all of your precautions.
I'd like to say one more thing, is that we have nothing to fear for the future, except we forget how we have been guided by God in the past and His teachings. And so we have a work to do. We have a mission to accomplish, but we need to be good stewards. We need to be responsible, but we also need to trust. Does it mean that we will never have a problem? Not at all. But as the 3 worthies in the fire, Daniel's 3 friends said, our God is able, but even if He doesn't, we will trust Him.
Amen. Thank you so much,
God bless
Dr.
you.
Landless.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
If you have any questions regarding how the church is addressing the coronavirus and the GC session, please visit session.adventist.org. And for any other questions regarding the virus, you can always look for updates on news.adventist.org. The Seventh-day Adventist Church in Honduras inaugurated its first community center for the Chinese community in Tegucigalpa this week. The new center will provide services to thousands of Chinese families in Honduras. The inaugural event was attended by leaders from the Chinese embassy.
The center provides an opportunity for the church to learn more about Chinese culture and provide services like Mandarin classes for the younger generation to become reacquainted with their own culture, Spanish classes, health, lifestyle, and cooking classes, legal assessment, serve as a recreation center, and more.
Ingrid Singh, ambassador of the Republic of China Embassy in Honduras, thanked the church for its initiative to connect and support the Chinese population, which numbers more than 7,000 in the country. Singh assured church leaders that she and her colleagues at the embassy would be supportive of the community center and its projects.
The new community center becomes the 3rd center of influence for the Chinese community in Inner America. Church members in the Dominican Republic have been running a center for over 3 years and in Panama for 6 months.
The center will be led by Pastor Xiang Po Chang and his wife, Mei Yu Lei, who arrived in Honduras in November and will be teaching Mandarin classes, among other things.
The Chinese Community Center is operated and managed in coordination with the Adventist World Church, the Inter-American Division, the Honduras Union, and 2 of its local conference offices.
According to a new study from Loma Linda University Health, intake of dairy milk is associated with a greater risk of breast cancer in women.
The study, Dairy, Soy, and Risk of Breast Cancer, Those Confounded Milks, was published in the International Journal of Epidemiology. The study found that even relatively moderate amounts of dairy milk consumption can increase women's risk of breast cancer, up to 80% depending on the amount consumed.
First author of the paper, Gary E. Frazier, said the observational study gives fairly strong evidence that either dairy milk or some other factor closely related to drinking dairy milk is a cause of breast cancer in women.
He said consuming as little as a quarter to a third cup of dairy milk per day was associated with an increased risk of breast cancer of 30%. By drinking up to 1 cup per day, the associated risk went up for 50%. And for those drinking 2 to 3 cups per day, the risk increased further to 70 to 80%.
Current U.S. dietary guidelines recommend 3 cups of milk per day. Dietary intakes of nearly 53,000 North American women were evaluated for the study, all of whom were initially free of cancer and were followed for nearly 8 years. By the end of the study period, there were more than 1,000 new breast cancer cases during follow-up.
This hazardous effect of dairy is consistent with the recent AHS2 report suggesting that vegans, but not lacto-ovo-vegetarians, experience less breast cancer than non-vegetarians.
The study is part of the Adventist Health Study 2, a long-term health study exploring the links between lifestyle, diet, and disease among members of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The Adventist Health Study is funded in part through the generosity of the Ardmore Institute of Health.
For more information, visit news.llu.edu. Coming up, Sam Nevis is here to show you how you can be a prayer warrior for the Seventh-day Adventist World Church.
But up next, find out how missionaries use music to reach people in Thailand.
We may look, pray, read, think, worship, sing, and share differently, but we all look forward to the Sabbath. And we all look forward to the future when Jesus will come again. With this message in mind, we arrived at a core component for a new identity system, the creation grid, a simple 7-column structure for layout. The grid is a reference both to the prophetic timeline as well as to the creation week that culminated in the 7th-day Sabbath. The first 6 columns of the grid belong to the designer. It can be filled with anything: text, images, illustrations, patterns, and logos. But the 7th column, the Sabbath column, does not belong to them. It is meant to be different and special. Regardless of what or where you are designing, you can always find information to help you communicate that we are all Seventh-day Adventists.
Welcome back.
Music is one of the most popular forms of entertainment, but in Thailand, it's doing more than just entertain.
Ricardo Palacios and his family were one of the first to answer the call to Thailand through Adventist Frontier Missions, and Ricardo became the leader of a violin group at the Adventist Church in Bangkok.
Adventist Mission has more.
Music is one of the most popular forms of entertainment, but in Thailand, it's doing more than just to entertain. It's bringing people from all over the world together for a common purpose. Khon Kaen City lies 450 kilometers from Bangkok. It's Thailand's 4th largest city and has the largest university in northeastern Thailand.
Khon Kaen is it's a growing city. There's a lot of educated people here, a lot of wealth. People are busy, don't have a lot of time. So we had to think in terms of how can we meet people in a non-threatening way.
With the challenge of reaching out to this wealthy urban community, missionaries from all over the world were called to Thailand. Ricardo and his family were one of the first to answer the call to Thailand through Adventist Frontier Missions. Ricardo became the leader of a violin group at the Adventist Church in Bangkok. The group was given the opportunity to perform live in the Thai Parliament and in several big shopping malls in the city. People enjoyed their music and said it made them happy. Ricardo realized that they could use music to communicate with and touch people, regardless of their status in life.
Music is like a universal language that really connects with people. People's hearts open up with music, and music is such a central part of Christian worship and experience.
Soon enough, they started a music academy. They invited volunteer teachers from around the world to come and teach piano, violin, ukulele, guitar, and give voice lessons. These teachers, together with the leaders of the school, have been able to create meaningful relationships with their students and their families.
We have a lot of wealthy clients and students that come here, and their parents are speaking to us more and more about the joy and the peace that they see in our families and in our lives that they want for their children.
While the teachers play a significant role in helping transform the lives of their young protégés, they themselves also go through a life-changing experience.
It gives them a chance to be involved in ministry. It shows them that they can use their unique gifts, to further God's cause. And so coming here, learning, Thai language to some degree, experiencing the culture, and just getting exposed to a broader vision, can plant a seed that will help direct their future and give them an idea that, they can use their gifts to build up God's kingdom.
In some ways, I and this school is the only way that they would be able to hear about Jesus, and the only way that they would be able to experience the love of Jesus. So when I realized that my students need to know Jesus, and when I desire so badly for them to know the joy and the peace that He has given me, that channels into my lessons, and it channels into the way I teach them, and it gives me a desire to encourage my students and to be patient with them.
Global Mission is helping fund the music program where people in Khon Kaen can learn music, not only as a form of entertainment, but as a means to building relationships and changing lives.
They need friendship, and they need hope, and they need meaning and purpose, as they realize that the things that they have are not giving them what they hoped, the happiness, the lasting happiness.
Music is a love gift from God to us, and the Music Academy in Khon Kaen uses both the beauty of music and the harmonious love of Jesus to touch the lives of their students, their families, and soon, with your prayers, the whole city of Khon Kaen. Thank you for your support of Global Mission that supports projects like this.
Watch this and other mission stories online by visiting adventistmission.org. Then click on videos at the top.
And now we have an update from the Digital Evangelism Network, a new initiative of the Seventh-day Adventist Church to reach people digitally.
Sam Neves is here to show you how you can get involved by being a prayer warrior.
There are thousands of people that get in touch with the Seventh-day Adventist Church every week. And you can help to build relationships with them so that slowly but surely we can introduce them to the wonderful love of Jesus Christ. We're calling all of us who are helping in this digital missionaries, and you can become one. If you go to Adventist.org and contact us through the email on that website, we will train you and help you to become a digital missionary. What does that mean? It means that you will give at least 1 hour a month to sit in front of your computer and talk to people that are wanting more information about the Bible. They have questions about their struggles. This online pastoral care can make a difference to thousands, millions of people. And you can dedicate your time and the gifts God has given you to help us to reach the people that need it most. Adventist.org, send us an email.
And finally, for today's episode, let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history.
This week, we learn about the life and ministry of Nelson Zane Town.
This week in Adventist history was important for publishing and literature evangelism. For much of this week, 140 years ago, March 11 through 15, 1880, a special General Conference session met in Battle Creek, Michigan. Attended by 28 delegates, this was the 5th special session of the General Conference and the last special session held to date. It was called in order to advance the publishing work, and amongst its actions was creating tract and missionary societies in every conference. On March 8, 1863, Nelson Zane Towne was born in New York State. Converted at the age of 22 by reading Seventh-day Adventist literature, he promptly went to what became Atlantic Union College to take the ministerial course. There he met Sadie Graham, and the two married right after graduating in 1890, and then promptly went as missionaries to Great Britain. For 18 months, they both worked as colporteurs in Scotland before Nelson was appointed to lead literature evangelistic work across the British Isles. 4 years later, Nelson and Sadie accepted a call to mission service in South America, where Nelson provided leadership to the emerging publishing ministry on that continent for 12 years, and for 2 years served as secretary-treasurer of the newly founded South American Union Conference. In 1908, the Townes returned to the United States. Nelson served as assistant secretary of the General Conference Publishing Department for 4 years. But then in 1913, he was elected head of the publishing department, a role he filled for 18 years, during which he traveled all around the world. This photograph of him was taken in the 1920s. In 1930, the Townes, both now in their late 60s, accepted a call back to South America, where Nelson served as president of the Austral Union Conference for 2.5 years. Nelson died in 1936, aged 73, having made a major contribution to the mission of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. For, as a colleague wrote after his death, thousands of pages of religious literature have been scattered through his leadership and help in many lands. That was This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
We'd love to hear from you. Send us your feedback and tell us how your church is making a difference in its community.
Be sure to capture plenty of video footage and photos, then write up a summary of the event's important details. And feel free to send full video reports as well.
You can reach us by sending an email to annvideo11@gmail.com.
Before we say goodbye, here's some good news from the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, verses 6 and 7.
The passage says, "And God raised us up with Christ and seated us with him in the heavenly realms in Christ Jesus, in order that in the coming ages he might show the incomparable riches of his grace expressed in his kindness to us in Christ Jesus."
That's our program for this week, and remember you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.